Well, good morning. Let's start out today with a song. How's that? Let's rise in body or spirit and sing hymn number 360. Here we have gathered. A rousing start for the day. Good morning again. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Venice. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, and welcome to those of us watching on YouTube. We hope you enjoy our service as well. My name is Dave Lyon, and I will be your worship associate this morning. Question, how many of you do Wordle? The New York Times, oh, look at them. Well, yesterday's word was dogma, which is a great word for Wordle because the D and the G and the M aren't very common letters in words. And that's a great word for Wordle, but here at UCOB, we have no dogma. But we do have a covenant where we agree to treat one another with kindness and respect. Our new values adopted at GA this year state that we declare that every person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. All are welcome here. We welcome whoever you are, whomever you choose to love. Wherever you are on your journey, we bid you welcome. And speaking of welcome, do we have any guests or visitors or even second-time people who are brave enough to raise your hand and tell us your name and where you come from? We're fighting now.
Good morning. My name is Wayne Lucigian. I arrived from Exeter, New Hampshire yesterday, where it was snowing, by the way. My bride, however, is still down there because she likes to make snowmen, I guess. Anyway, so we're now flying rather than driving, which gives us flexibility. But anyway, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kat Henson from Portland, Oregon, visiting for the holidays.
Ooh.
My name is Kim Herron from Portland, Oregon.
Welcome. Enjoy our cold weather. Any others? Oh,
Hi, I'm Sue Burgess from Port Charlotte, and this is my second time here. And what a lovely congregation and large.
Nice to have you, Sue.
any others? Are there any snowbirds back that are back with us? If you are, wave your hand, and looks like everybody's here that's going to be here. Okay, thank you. If you'd like to learn more about us, please check out our Facebook page and our website at uucov.org. Both of them have tons of information. You can spend hours there almost. We have announcements on the back of your order of service, and then I'm going to go through a few others because it's that time of year. Reverend Amy is going to have a soap making class at Waters Hall this Saturday. Email Amy if you want to attend. She would like a $10 donation for the materials, and you get to take the soap home with you. So let her know. From Cindy Bauman, the Death and Grief Support Group is now meeting on the first and third Wednesdays of each month at 1:30. We will meet this coming Wednesday, open to all UCOV people and all in our greater community. Where do they meet, Amy? Or Cindy?
Waters Hall.
Waters Hall. Okay.
There's a mistake in the program. It says
Okay, yeah, that's the better date, not the one in the program. And from Donna Jewett has two announcements. A reminder that tomorrow, Monday, is Meatless Monday in Waters Hall at 5 p.m. Please bring your own plate, utensils, BYOB, and dish to share. And secondly, the Green Sanctuary and Green Team is getting down and dirty. This Tuesday, December 3rd at 9 a.m. If you could help clean up our pollinating garden, edible garden, please show up with gloves and tools. By the way, we have 3 composts so you can recycle your food waste here. The earth thanks you. And then Marcia has an announcement.
I just want to remind you we're having an update from the board, little program after the service. The biggest announcement is about the plans to refurbish our gardens over here, so I hope you'll stay if you can, and also about all the exciting things that are coming up this season at UCOV. There will be a handout, save the date on one side, and all of your leaders and teams on the other side. And if you cannot stay, some of these will be out on the lanai after the service. Thank you.
Good morning again, Wayne Lucigian. I volunteered kind of to do the auction this year. It's Pat's fault, so if I screw up, blame her. Anyway, it's January 24, which is a Friday. It's not that far away. And a key to our success will be what we're auctioning off, particularly services. And so in the back corner of the lanai, you'll see forms. Let's Raise the Roof is the name of the auction. So we want to have a lot of fun as we raise a lot of money, the proceeds of which are going to go toward helping defray the cost of a new roof for the church. In the past, we've had people having a Super Bowl party at their house, a Mardi Gras party, St. Patrick's Day, Valentine's Day. We've had wine tasting parties. We've had barbecues on the beach. We've had people giving artwork or jewelry. So there are going to be some physical items, but the bulk of what we'll be auctioning off, both with a silent auction and a live auction, will be services. So we all have different talents, and sometimes it's something as simple as driving someone to the airport. So if you're still scratching your head about what can I do, then please, I'm going to be hanging around after church. Maybe we can discuss some other ideas. And then Next week, there'll also be a sign up for appetizers because we're going to be providing a wide array of appetizers for the event, which starts at 4:30 in the afternoon. And they'll start with a silent auction. There'll be a basket raffle going on, and then the live auction will take place. So that's it, and thank you in advance for all your help to make this auction a great success. Thank you.
We all look forward to the auction. That's always a fun event. Now's the time to check your cell phones, make sure they're in the off position. For our chalice lighting, I've chosen a piece by Catherine Etste called Little Flame. Little flame, light the tender kindling of our souls, and soon a roaring blaze shall be of warmth and love and community. From this little spark, may a fire of passion spread from heart to heart and light our way. got into that, I could see your hair even bouncing. That's great. That's great. I'd like to introduce our guest today, the Reverend Brock Leach. Brock lives in Sarasota and works for the UUA as a consultant for emerging ministries, helping develop and lead denominational support for religious innovators. He's a faculty member at Meadville Lombard Theology School and affiliated community minister with UU Sarasota and the Church of the Larger Fellowship. Locally, Brock volunteers on several boards, too many for me to mention, including the Sarasota African American Cultural Coalition, which is led by Vicki Oldham. If you remember, for those of you this summer, Vicki was here and spoke to us this summer. Brock recently completed a Doctor of Ministry program at Boston University School of Theology. Let's give a warm welcome to Reverend Brock Leach.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you so much. I tell you what, it is a joy to be here with you on this beautiful fall Sunday. The chill is offset by the warmth of this room. It's so great to be in a place with people who really care about each other and about the larger world. And so delightful to be here with you. Let me find my thing here. Oh. You didn't have it in there. I have. So our opening words are from the Reverend Mark Morrison Reed. The central task of the religious community is to unveil the bonds that bind each to all. There is a connectedness, a relationship discovered amid the particulars of our own lives and the lives of others. Once felt, it inspires us to act for justice. It is the church that assures us that we are not struggling for justice on our own, but as members of a larger community. The religious community is essential, for alone our vision is too narrow to see all that must be seen, our strength too limited to do all that must be done. Together, our vision widens and our strength is renewed.
Thank you very much. Well, it's time for our offering. And as the Reverend Amy says, giving is a sacred practice. When you give to your church, you also receive. As usual, our offering words are offered with levity because giving should always happen with a smile. So here we go. Do we have any cat lovers today? We got a cat story. Okay, we got a few. A cat dies and goes to heaven. God meets him at the gate and says, "You've been a good cat all these years. Anything you desire is yours." The cat says, "I've lived all my life with a poor family on a farm and had to sleep on hard floors." God says, "Say no more," and instantly a fluffy pillow appears. A few days later, 16 mice are killed in a tragic accident, and they go to heaven. God meets them at the gate with the same offer. The mice said, "All our lives we've had to run from dogs, run from cats, even women with brooms. If we could only have a pair of roller skates, we wouldn't have to run anymore." God says, "Say no more," and instantly each mouse is fitted with a beautiful pair of tiny roller skates. About a week later, God decides to check and see how the cat is doing. The cat is sound asleep on his new pillow. God gently wakes him and asks, "How are you doing? Are you happy here?" The cat yawns and stretches and said, "Oh, I've never been happier in my life. And those Meals on Wheels you've been sending over are the best." This morning's collection will now be taken and gratefully received. Thank you so much for your generosity and all you do to sustain the life of this congregation. Now it's time for celebrations and sorrows. A church is not a building, but the people. We come together to share our laughter and our tears. You could raise a hand, and a microphone will appear before you. Please notice this is not a time for announcements. Be brief, personal, and nonpartisan in your comments. And Marcia's got a microphone over here, and Jean's got one over here, so just raise your hand.
Good morning, folks. I'm Kim McHugh, and for those of you that have had the pleasure of knowing my vehicle, Ruby, my big 2016 Expedition, I no longer have her here in Florida, but never fear, instead of trading her in for the new vehicle, we left her at the beach house, and she's now a beach buggy. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Janet Morrill, and I'm just tickled to death to proudly display my new name tag. Thank you.
Thank you. I should stand on the chair probably. But tomorrow is my dear husband's birthday, and I really like it because I married a younger guy, and tomorrow he's the same age.
I'll try to keep this quick. Of course, like most of you, we had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we drove up to Atlanta, Georgia to visit with Pat's middle son and family and had a wonderful time. The sorrow is for all the people in their cars going the other way. They were stop and go for miles and miles. We were lucky.
No, any more? Okay. May the gratitudes and celebrations among us this day become a blessing to us all. May the concerns and sorrows of those be shared in all our hearts. A burden shared is a load lightened.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Our first reading this morning is from none other than Albert Einstein. A human being is a part of the whole called the universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings, as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. So for our meditation, I'm going to continue that theme with some words from a book by Neil Theis. He is a professor of pathology at New York University, and he wrote a book called Notes on Complexity, a Scientific Theory of Connection, Consciousness, and Being. It's the whole shebang. Now, I don't claim to understand all of the book, but his central point rings true to me. He says, the parts are not, cannot be separate from the whole. It is our misapprehension that each of us is an unimportant cog in an unfeeling, non-living universe. It is our collective delusion that we are separate and alone. It is our training by neurodevelopment, by instinct, by teaching, that causes us to forget the innocent but not naive sense of connection we carry with us from the womb before we enter into a seemingly independent life. So as we enter into a moment of silence, I invite you to sit back in your chair, put your feet on the ground, relax your shoulders, and imagine all the ways we are connected to all. So our second reading is by Reverend Nancy MacDonald Ladd. If God's name is love, then God compels us to resist the fall to sinful violence by pushing back with muscular resolve against the social structures that confine our capacity to care. A universalist God for a tragic era is not a gauzy, hymn-singing force of personal devotion that draws us endlessly toward itself, but a fierce and compelling power that grips us by the collar amid our rebellious descent and calls us to choose the will to mutuality all over again, even when that choice is so risky that it could utterly remake us. So, I'm just going to take a wild guess here, but I imagine that ever since the election, most of the people in this room have been puzzling over the question of how we deploy ourselves in the light of existential threats to most everything we care about. You know, we feel pulled in multiple directions. We need to acknowledge fear that we feel. We need to grieve the loss of ideals. We need to help protect the vulnerable. We need to join with others to resist fascism in our organizing and our advocacy. And we know that we cannot do everything. So this morning, I want to make the case that the most revolutionary, radical, valuable thing that we can do is to truly honor our interdependence with one another, with the whole of creation, and do it right here in our congregations and in our local communities. The deep pain we feel across all segments of our society is separation. Separation from the natural world, separation from one another, separation from the kind of communities like this one that are essential to our thriving. So I believe that we UUs are especially capable of showing how to bridge the gaps that separate us. And that is what the world needs most right now. So many of you are probably aware that last summer, over 80% of the delegates to the UU General Assembly voted to replace our beloved 7 principles and 6 sources that are enshrined in the UUA bylaws with something dramatically different. For the very first time in our history, the new bylaws declared a shared purpose for our faith. They call our whole faith, our members, our congregations, and the UUA to actively engage, and I quote, in the transformation of the world through liberating love. This new version incorporates the principles we know and love, they're still there, but it organizes them under 7 shared values, with love at the very center of it all. Instead of offering a set of principles with which we can individually agree, these new values have a different character. They start with interdependence at the very top, and they move clockwise to equity, which is about equality and fairness. And then comes transformation of ourselves and our world, pluralism, or embracing our differences, generosity, and of course, justice. And all of them are expressions of that love that's in the center. And, you know, I don't know too many UUs who would disagree with those values, but some might wonder, how are they better than the principles? Well, notice the larger meaning of this whole configuration. Instead of us individually affirming and promoting the inherent worth and dignity of every person and the other principles, all of these values recognize our mutuality. They're all relational. They reflect the reality that we are all in this together. They ask us to not just embrace our values in our individual lives, but do so in ways that benefit and transform all of us. When Dr. King described his vision of the beloved community, he talked about how it would be achieved by a type of spirit or a type of love that, quote, can transform opposers into friends. He called it agape love. And he described it as expressing goodwill for all people. He said it is the love of God working in the lives of human beings. This is the love that may well be the salvation of our civilization. So this bylaw revision wasn't an easy process, some of you may know. It spanned 5 years, 2 different commissions, 3 general assemblies. Many people, including me, love the 7 principles. They were what called me into Unitarian Universalism in the first place. They're eloquent, they're even poetic. And they were only adopted in the 80s, amended in the 90s, but they expressed what we believed. But for other people, particularly people of color, and others who are not comfortable in a culture that centered individuals' beliefs, the principles did not call us to mutual accountability. If you took them all together and you embraced their collective meaning, you could see how they called us to transform the world, but they never said as much. The principles will always be a part of who we are, but I think these folks were right that something was missing. Every day we are reminded that we really are all in this together. The only way we can address the threats we face and seize the opportunities that are in front of us is to harness that vast pool of human ingenuity and wisdom that is all around us. What we believe individually is important grounding, but it's collaborating together that is essential to surviving and thriving. From the golden rule of the Abrahamic Judeo-Christian traditions to that centering of all existence and connection that's practiced by Eastern and many indigenous traditions, given all that, you'd think that that's something that all of humanity could agree on. Yet millions of Americans are apparently bought into the idea that self-interest, celebrity, power, and money are what life is all about. That feels morally bankrupt to me. But I think it's really a sign of spiritual bankruptcy. And when I say spiritual, I don't mean spiritualism. I don't mean spirits apart. I mean, we are spiritually vital when we are in touch with that inner sense of who we are and what we're meant to be in the world that calls us forward, that connects us to others, and that connects us to the rest of existence and gives our lives meaning. The truth is that we cannot possibly be spiritually whole people by ourselves. We can only do it in connection with other people and the rest of life on the planet. Our spiritual vitality is grounded in mutuality. And that grounding is harder to find right now because our society suffers from an acute sense of community deprivation. Many of us here understand the benefits of mutuality because we've experienced it directly in our own lives. But that's not the current reality for too many Americans. Where communities were once comprised of people who knew each other well and stayed in relationship and had each other's backs, today's social media communities are a very poor substitute. As economies have become corporatized and globalized, more of us become agents of large remote systems. Fewer people experience themselves as needed or valued in their work life. And on a practical level, more of us work longer hours. Few of us have extended family connections. More of us live alone. We're not routinely drawn together in ways that allow us to connect our own purpose and gifts with others. Yet we all have a deep primal yearning to be seen and heard and valued. We need to know that our lives make some difference. We can either meet that need with deeper self-knowledge and meaningful relationships, or in the absence of healthy community support, we can meet it in antisocial, even sociopathic ways. For some, I think being part of the extremist end of the MAGA community is a desperate attempt to belong somewhere. But it's a need we all have, and there's an enormous gap beckoning to be filled, and I think that's where we can come in. Paula Cole-Jones is a UU consultant who has studied and supported our community building for a couple decades. She is the co-founder of the Eighth Principle Project, which you may have heard of. And that also informed the new values that we just talked about. She is famous, though, for coming up with a concept called the community of communities. She says that most of our congregations are like the blue circle on the left. They are home to people who share values, but also share a similar dominant culture. They're like a family. There's nothing wrong with that. As shown in the yellow circle inside the blue one, the dominant culture comprises most of the congregation. So there isn't much room left for people of different cultures or life stages, or people have different spiritual needs. But a multicultural congregation is a community made up of many different communities where people can be part of a group that reflects their unique interests or cultures or life stage needs, while also being part of the larger community that worships and celebrates and acts together. The choir is a community within the communities. The social justice committee, the board, many other groups that you have in your own congregation are like that. They're places where people really identify and connect with one another and with the congregation. But as shown in the graphic, a multicultural community also has a permeable membrane. It creates room for others to enter, and it supports them in forming new communities that meet their unique needs, whatever they are. So Robert Putnam, who is a sociologist, he wrote a book called Bowling Alone a while ago. He says that healthy human beings need both bonding capital, the need to bond with people with whom we share much culturally, and we need bridging capital, the need to be in relationship with people who expand our horizons and deepen our appreciation of the whole human mosaic. Both of those are in short supply right now. But that's what a community of communities can do for us. You know, these are incredibly enriching, vital places. I believe our society needs Unitarian Universalist communities now more than ever, because people desperately need to go where they are supported in becoming spiritually healthy and whole people. And we meet that need better than almost any organization I can think of. For starters, liberating love has always been at the center of our theological heritage. Our Universalist roots proclaim that God is love, that internal spirit that calls us to purposes larger than ourselves. Emerson wrote about, quote, that sense of being in the calm hours rises we know not how in the soul. All the social justice movements founded by UUs in the 19th century, American Red Cross, NAACP, the suffragettes, all of them were about transforming the world with liberating love. Regardless of what else we believe, UUs throughout history have embraced the idea that each of us embodies a unique and innate sense of purpose, and we are deeply connected to one another. If we're called to transform the world right now, the urgent question is, how do we do it for more people? How do we do it for every person who walks in the door? How do we help them feel belonging and uncover their sense of purpose and find a way to share their talents with others in ways that bring joy and meaning? So as Dave mentioned, last spring, I finished my doctoral program. It was a race between Medicare and graduating. Medicare won, but I did graduate. And I completed a 3-year research project as part of that with 6 UU congregations and 50 leaders. They were all over the country. And the central question was, what help do they need to become more multicultural and more multi-generational? That's the subject of a whole different sermon. But the whole experience convinced me, first, that we really can become multicultural. We take some changing in practices. We need to get used to how to do it, but we can do it. We can't do it in every congregation in every way. Size and geography limit who is around that we can serve, but we can do it collectively. We just need to be more intentional about inviting people with different needs into our midst, making room for them, encouraging them to form their own communities, letting them experiment, try things out, see what works for you, and creating that room in the larger community. Second, we need to embrace what makes us uniquely valuable in this moment. It's not only about being a refuge for people who share our values, it certainly is that. It's about becoming a community that supports anyone and everyone in becoming spiritually whole. As I worked on the research with these congregational groups, we began to realize that this bold vision is not going to happen overnight. Progress will probably be measured in years, if not decades. So we ask ourselves, how will we know if we're making progress? We might see people of different cultures and generations showing up and finding a home, and that would be wonderful. But we realize that the goal is not strictly demographic. The real goal is to create spiritually vital places where any person, regardless of who they are or where they come from, can feel they belong and are made whole in their connection. And we realized that we could actually ask people how they were doing on those dimensions. So my home congregation up the road in Sarasota is very generous, and they allowed me to send a survey to our whole congregation. And what we did is we asked them, it was a part of a larger survey, but we asked them the extent to which members agreed or disagreed with the following statements on a 5-point scale. I called them spiritual vitality indicators. They were, I belong here and am supported on life's journey. I feel valued, seen, and heard. I have found opportunities to lead, grow, and contribute. I have found my purpose and meaning in connection with others. I have developed practices that connect me to an understanding of life larger than myself and provide a sense of wholeness. I lead a life of integrity consistent with my values. So 139 people, bless their souls, completed the survey. And I don't know if you can see these numbers, but a strong majority of them agreed or strongly agreed with all of these statements. It was around 2/3 to 3/4 on most of these statements. But not everyone did. On the question of feeling valued, seen, and heard, over 1/4 of respondents were neutral, disagreed, or strongly disagreed. On finding purpose and meaning and connection with others, fully 1/3 were neutral or disagreed. About 38 people, over 1/4 of the total, felt left out on one of these 6 dimensions. The survey was anonymous by design, so I don't know who the individuals were, but some of the 38 were young adults. Identify our values, but they don't feel seen, valued, and heard. A few were people of color. And most were 75 or over and women, the largest number. So the survey asked people what communities or activities they were involved with in the congregation. So I could go look at those 38 people and what they were doing. And it turns out that the older folks among the 38 participated in social activities, like we have a monthly potluck, we have get-together dinners, but they typically weren't involved in activities where they worked together on some creative enterprise or doing something in common purpose. You can see how they might not feel valued, seen, and heard, or feel that they have opportunities to contribute. But that's something we could address, right? That's something we could solve for. So what if we were intentional about learning the spiritual needs of every person who walks in the door? What if we regularly checked in with members on the spiritual vitality indicators or something like that? Maybe it's not a survey, maybe it's a conversation. What if we taught regular spiritual practices that help connect us to each other and the rest of existence? What if we worked in our smaller communities within the congregation to pursue shared creative interests or meet the unique needs of our life stage or celebrate aspects of a heritage that we enjoy? What if we thought of ourselves not just as an alternative religion, but as a center for developing spiritually whole, healthy human beings? At a time when that's what millions of people clearly need, who is better positioned to meet it than we are? Therapy is important. It helps us sort out our thoughts and feelings, but it's a solo practice, and it's a luxury for many. Advocating for justice and democracy are essential, but secular justice organizations and political parties are not focused on spiritual health and well-being. Other religious denominations set out to nourish the spirit, but many focus on a God apart. Some are caught up in deciding who is worthy of salvation and who is not. We, on the other hand, welcome people whoever they are, as they are, wherever they come from. And we have the additional advantage of welcoming people from all religious backgrounds or none. We can bring agape love to life in our communities. We can move beyond individual principles to honoring our mutual humanity. We can make room for people from all walks of life to find spiritual wholeness in our midst. And along the way, we can show that it really is possible to transform ourselves and our world with liberating love. That is our shared purpose. So I'm going to invite you now to rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 318. As we extinguish our chalice,
Let me make an announcement and interrupt
There you
the
go.
service. I have an important announcement to make. I'm going to call Eileen Leapley to make an important announcement.
Good morning. We have a very special guest today, and she's sitting right over there. And we are going to celebrate Grace Grote's 104th birthday, which will be on December 5th, but we're celebrating today. So please make sure you go out on the lanai, have a piece of cake, some coffee, a cold drink, and congratulate Grace before you come back in and join in the congregational conversation. All right.
Thank you all. I want to tell you that the other day I was visualizing through a photograph myself at the end of a line of shovels out there on plain dirt ground. And you have built a terrific thing here. You have built a place for us to have comfort, to have pleasure, and to do good things. And you have really triumphed from the shovels to now. And I congratulate all of you on doing that. It is a thing that no matter how old you get and you think about it, it will give you peace and comfort and satisfaction. And I thank you for your part in my life.
what a beautiful way to end our service. As we extinguish our chalice and close out our service, let's reconnect to the truth that we are each exquisite, intricate parts of a magnificent whole. And let that notion bind our hearts and point us on our way.